How can you use the superpower of reading all women's thoughts and desires? Stay on Flashback Recap and you'll find out right now. This is the story of Nick Marshall, a businessman who grew up surrounded by women due to his mother's job in a cabaret. Without a father figure in his life, the only male role models he had were the type of men who were with a different woman every night. Naturally, he ended up following in their footsteps. His typical day starts with him waking up after a romantic night, getting ready for work, and making it a point to approach or touch any woman he finds attractive. Despite his poor behavior, things always seem to go his way. He even convinces a waitress who had just rejected him moments earlier to go on a date with him. From there, he heads to the office, where his actions clearly make some of his female coworkers uncomfortable. During a meeting, he anticipates news of his promotion, but instead he learns that a woman named Darcy will be taking the position he had hoped for. The company has decided that hiring a woman to lead their new product strategy is the right move. But that isn't the only issue on Nick's plate. His ex-wife is getting remarried, and because of her honeymoon, he'll need to look after their daughter for a week. However, this isn't his primary focus at the moment. He's more concerned about attending the meeting where he'll meet Darcy. Initially, not many have confidence in her, but she quickly earns the respect of some of her colleagues. She introduces a fresh campaign idea aimed at making the company more attuned to women's needs, even suggesting that the men try out a box of feminine products to experience things from a woman's perspective. Nick's skepticism only deepens as he sees these products as nothing more than trivial distractions. At home, although he works for a company that caters to women, he continues to view them as mere objects. Nonetheless, he decides to humor Darcy's idea and give some of the feminine products a try. News of Ban's attack spreads quickly, and Spencer becomes the main suspect. Driscoll and another investigator visit Spencer to ensure he has no alibi, but Spencer proves he wasn't present when Ban was killed. Nonetheless, her frustration escalates when she realizes he never really listens to her and doesn't even remember the name of the boy she just introduced to him. After their argument, Nick begins to reflect. When the boy's name finally comes back to him, he tries to go to his daughter to apologize, but he trips, falls into the bathtub, and accidentally electrocutes himself with a hairdryer. He remains unconscious on the floor until the cleaning lady revives him. This is when things start getting strange. Though the cleaning lady's lips aren't moving, Nick can hear her thoughts. He tries to ignore it, but as soon as he heads to the office, he realizes he can now hear people's thoughts. Only the thoughts of women, though. As a result, he overhears some bizarre comments. "He almost killed me. Too bad he didn't." He also learns that his female coworkers, who always greet him with smiles, secretly think he's an idiot. What troubles him most is how overwhelming it is to hear so many thoughts all at once. It's driving him insane. He confides in his partner, hoping for help, but his partner doesn't believe him and warns him to stop saying such things before he gets himself fired. He also advises Nick to focus on preparing some solid ideas for his upcoming meeting with Darcy. Nick agrees and tries to brainstorm, but despite reading women's thoughts, he still can't come up with anything worthwhile. Frustrated, he goes home and tries to recreate everything he did before the mind reading began. He uses all the women's products again and even takes advantage of a storm, standing in the rain while turning on a hairdryer. He faints again but wakes up in his armchair. Unsure whether the curse is gone, he tries to check but can't find any women to test it on. Desperate, he heads to a shopping mall, and for a brief moment, everything seems normal, just as he hoped, but his relief is short-lived when he realizes nothing has changed. Running out of options, Nick decides to visit the therapist who once counseled him and his ex-wife. Like most women, she still thinks he's an idiot and doesn't believe a word he says. However, he quickly proves her wrong by revealing her exact thoughts. At first, she considers sending him to another specialist, but instead she advises him to embrace his newfound ability. Now that he knows what women want, he should use it to give them what they desire and become a sort of king. Initially, Nick starts treating women with more kindness. However, When he's with Darcy, he takes advantage of his ability to steal all her ideas and present them as his own, impressing his superiors. Darcy, oblivious to this, believes Nick is full of great ideas. Observing Bentwood while he gets a massage, Spencer recalls his past interactions with Boand and Gloria Wisuki. Gloria, an activist against gentrification in Bentwood's neighborhood, refused to be intimidated by Bentwood, who he invites her to go shopping for a prom dress. That night, he also goes on a date with the waitress, and although it starts off rocky, he quickly realizes that being able to read thoughts is incredibly useful in romantic situations, helping him win her over. Nick continues living his life treating women better while continuing to steal Darcy's ideas. To the women around him, he appears to be the perfect man, but Darcy starts to sense that something isn't right and tries to confront him. Despite reminding herself repeatedly, "Don't fall for a guy at work, don't fall for a guy at work," she can't help developing feelings for Nick. At the same time, Nick begins to empathize with her more deeply, and they start spending more and more time together. Before anything else, Nick needs to take his daughter shopping for a prom dress, as promised. Afterward, they have lunch at a restaurant where he awkwardly attempts to discuss the topic of sex, knowing that she plans to have her first experience with her boyfriend. However, his efforts fail, as his daughter remains angry with him for being an absent father. Frustrated, she leaves before finishing her meal, unwilling to believe that her father has truly changed. Later that night, Nick gets a call from Darcy, and they go on a date. During their conversation, she reveals that she was once married but separated because her partner didn't love her, which caused her to become more cautious about trusting men. It's also during this time that Nick starts to respect her more, admiring her work ethic and professionalism. After a while, they share a kiss. But because she's different from the women he's usually been with, Nick decides to take things slow and declines her invitation to come to her apartment. As he approaches his own home, he notices the waitress he slept with a few days earlier waiting outside his building. She believed their relationship was more serious and couldn't handle the fact that he hadn't contacted her again. Not wanting to hurt her further, Nick tells a small lie, making her believe that he is the one who can't continue the relationship. "I'm gay." Nonetheless, what's most important is that Nick continues to take credit for Darcy's ideas, especially now that they're about to close a major deal with an important company. Although he has tried to fix things by suggesting that Darcy should present the new campaign, she refuses, believing she doesn't deserve credit for work she didn't do. Moreover, she's now completely in love with him and wants what's best for him. With nothing left to change, Nick goes ahead and delivers the presentation, successfully closing the deal. However, still feeling guilty and wanting to apologize to Darcy, he decides to write her a letter, confessing everything he's done and asking for forgiveness. But before he can finish, she interrupts him, inviting him to celebrate at a house she recently purchased, which is still undergoing renovation. They spend the evening talking and dancing as there's little else they can do in the empty space. Time is critical, and Spencer, along with Hawk, swiftly locates the truck. A high-speed chase ensues, culminating in a tense confrontation on the road where two criminals meet their end, and a hidden stash is discovered, recently purchased, which is still... This all feels strange to Nick, as the promotion was originally meant for Darcy. It turns out that since Darcy didn't contribute to the new campaign, the company decided to fire her, and the agreement was already finalized. Nick pleaded with his boss to rehire Darcy, explaining that it was because of her that they secured such an important contract. Surprisingly, she got her job back with little effort. But now Nick had another issue. A girl he had been watching over, who had been dealing with suicidal thoughts, hadn't shown up to work that day. Fearing the worst, despite the pouring rain, he went out to search for her. At first, Nick couldn't find the address of the girl's apartment, so he had to ask a nearby old woman for directions. She pointed him down an alley. As he passed, some wires above him short-circuited, but he ignored them and hurried to the girl's house. Finding the door open, he went inside and discovered a suicide note. However, nothing had happened, As it turned out to be a misunderstanding, when he found her, Nick realized that he had finally stopped hearing everyone's thoughts. There was no time to celebrate, though. He had to help her and ensure she didn't try to harm herself again. He offered her a better position at work to motivate her to focus on her future. With that resolved, Nick turned his attention back to Darcy, searching for her all the way to her apartment. However, she chose to ignore him, being in a bad mood. Amid everything, Nick had completely forgotten about his daughter's dance. She had locked herself in a bathroom, crying because her boyfriend had abandoned her when she said she wasn't ready for sex. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and see you in the next video. All the way to her apartment. However, she chose to... Initially, he only told her that she was being rehired, but when he saw that she felt she deserved to be fired for not doing her job well, he confessed that he had been able to read her thoughts and had stolen all of her ideas. He admitted it was a foolish mistake that he deeply regretted. Most importantly, he told her that he had fallen in love with her. But that wasn't enough for Darcy. Even though she had been rehired, she was still his boss, and she decided to fire him for his actions. That was the end of their relationship. Nick left feeling completely defeated and humiliated for confessing his feelings only to be rejected. However, things weren't over. Moments after he left, Darcy ran after him to admit that she too had made a mistake by firing him. She realized that this shouldn't prevent them from being together. Finally, now that Nick had learned to stop objectifying women, he could commit to a real relationship and live happily ever after. That was what women want. Don't forget to comment on which movie you'd like me to recap next, and remember to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next video.